All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out to Football Fridays at the Eck and for being here for catching up with our first guest today. Is nice enough to join us each season to preview the upcoming men's basketball season. He is the winningest coach in Notre Dame men's basketball history. And over the last 4 seasons, his program has proven to be a nightmare for the Blue Bloods in the ACC. Please welcome the mayor of Tobacco Road, Mike Brey.
Thank you. Oh, my God, great to be here. Here we go, another school year, another basketball season around the corner, but we're going to do this football thing for a while.
Yeah. Well, we want to talk about the upcoming season, but we always like to also look back on last year. Yeah. So, obviously coming into last year, you had Bonzie Colson back, you had Matt Farrell back, 2 of the best players in the ACC from the prior year. What were your expectations for that team going into the season?
Well, after we won the Maui Classic with a healthy group, you're dreaming big dreams with our team, and then disappointingly, we just couldn't stay healthy. We've never been bit by the injury bug, and appreciate all our fans hanging with us through it, with Bonzie going down and Matt Farrell in and out. And then an injury that probably wasn't talked about enough was DJ Harvey going down, our freshman who was starting to play a lot for us. So having said all that, we almost snuck in that darn NCAA tournament bracket, with the win over Virginia Tech in Brooklyn. I was very proud of our group. They hung in there and kept fighting and swinging. But at the end of the day, to kind of play through our league, you got to have all your weapons. And, of course, our schedule came out yesterday, and I glanced at it and I said, boy, we're going to need all our ammunition to play the ACC schedule again this year.
You mentioned the winning the Maui Invitational Thanksgiving weekend. That was obviously one of the really great highlights of the season last year. You were down 16 to Wichita State, a really good Wichita State team, and came back and won that tournament. When you go back and look at the film from that game, if you do you kind of think about what could have been last season?
Well, the first thing I look at was my sideline attire that whole week that became bigger than life. I think there's now a dress code at the Maui Classic after what I pulled off, but I said it's Maui, come on. But one of we had a tape running the weekend the freshmen all came back for orientation. In June, we had a little orientation for summer school, and there was a tape running of that game, and I stopped and watched for about 5 minutes and like, man, we were really good out there, and we just never could recapture that, from the health standpoint. So you turn the page and you lose some men in Bonzie, who's with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he's healthy, and he's got a great shot at making the roster, and if anybody deserves it, it would be him. Matt Farrell signed with a club team in Lithuania. Martin Gebbin went back to his home country of Lithuania, and I was so pleased with the year Martin Gebbin had as a senior for us. Austin Torres is still kind of in the job search role here. We're working and helping him with things. So, that group left, and now you're left with a little bit younger group, maybe the youngest that I've ever had in my 19 seasons.
You mentioned that in Maui you kind of had a little bit of a relaxed outfit on the sidelines. You took it to another level in the locker room when you were celebrating after the game. We actually have a brief clip of that, so we're going to watch here for a second.
We're going to throw that up there? Oh, my God, that's... Oh, my God. Unbelievable. Look at Pat Holmes. Only in Maui, right? Only in Maui. Yes, sir. That was...
You've, over the years, earned the nickname the loosest coach in America. I guess that's kind of what we're talking about there.
I got to give you a comparison that night that still cracks me up. Michigan was out there with us, and obviously they went on to have a very good year getting to the national championship. They got knocked off by LSU, and so they played in the consolation game. And the locker rooms are really close, and you share the locker rooms. Like one team's moving out, and then you're moving in because it's a small gym. So I'm kind of on the outside, kind of going over my notes before the Wichita State game. They win the consolation, and they go in, and they have a tradition where they sing, their victory march, which is second or third best in the country, But anyways, they're in there, and it sounds like they've been practicing. They're a choral group. And then we win, and I'm thinking to myself, they sing their victory march and I go in with my shirt off flexing. I said, that's really a difference in cultures. But no, I mean, after that, we had a hard time keeping our group together, even though we competed and really played well. And at the end, what's amazing about our league, and unlike football, I don't have to remind our fans here, we lost 7 straight in the ACC in January and early February. But yet, when you play in a league like ours, and you had strength of some good wins early, you still had enough of a resume after the Virginia Tech win in Brooklyn where you were in the bracket until Davidson knocked Rhode Island out, that Sunday. So, in all honesty, we didn't deserve to be in. We lost some games when we were healthy to Ball State here at the buzzer. We blew one against Indiana, which still is a hard one for me to get over, when we had all our guys healthy. And when when you're full strength and you don't get those, you really don't deserve to get in. But we want to get back in that thing because we miss not being part of March Madness. It's been kind of a regular thing for this program, and we miss it, and we yearn to get back next March.
The other huge highlight for Notre Dame fans last season was January 3rd when after the team laid a 30-point victory on NC State, you became the winningest coach in Notre Dame men's basketball history. What did achieving that milestone mean to you?
Well, I think back, and I'm just so fortunate to be at a place that long, and then to be at a very special place like Notre Dame. I've had really good players. I've had great staff. And so, when they hired me 19 years ago, my attitude, never in my wildest dreams do you think you'd be around long enough to be the winningest coach. You're just trying not to get fired when you get hired. You're just going day to day and try, can I maybe get a 2-year extension? Can I maybe get a 2-year? To be here 19 seasons, I'm really blessed. But we've had great kids and the kind of people the guys are they're even better than than basketball players they are. And many of our fans meet them and know them. That's why I love coaching here, being around the kind of guys that I get. We get great guys. They're great guys. When many of your children, you run into them. I love the feedback I get a lot of times from our fans or from faculty when they run into an Elijah Burns or a Rex Pfluger or a Martin Gavin, say, Coach, man, he's a class act. And that's how we've built the program, and we'll always represent in that fashion. So that's one of the reasons I love coaching here. I still think I've got a lot of juice. I don't know if, some of these guys are coaching until they're 75 in our league now, so maybe I got to try that one.
You mentioned the great class that just graduated. I believe they had the most wins of any class in Notre Dame basketball history. And now, as you said, you really have a very young team coming back, and you're used to a program. You've built a program here that, as you like to say, gets old and stays old. How do you need to change your approach going into this year, knowing you're going to be relying on so many young guys and even a number of freshmen?
Well, you're right. I mean, that's a theme that I've used, and I've had a lot of coaches come up and say, well, I love your theme of get old and stay old. Well, I've kind of violated that this year, but I'm excited about it. We have 5 freshmen and a transfer that's eligible, a young man that transferred from Connecticut and will be eligible this year. There are 6 players that no one's really seen, our fans have not seen. And it's been exciting to, integrate them through the summer. This was a summer where we were able to go on a foreign tour. You can do that once every 4 years. And with that, you get 10 extra practices. So right after summer school in late July, we went into practice mode for a week, a little bit of training camp mode. And then we went and roughed it in Nassau in the Bahamas for a week. We went down there and we played 3 games. So our new guys, our freshmen, have played a lot. And I'll throw this out. If you're walking around campus 4:30, you may want to stick your head in the arena because we're going to practice a little bit this afternoon. So feel free to come in. It'll be open. So these young guys have had a little more reps than usual, and we're trying to get them old fast for an amazingly challenging schedule, not only the ACC schedule, but our non-league schedule. Oklahoma in the Garden, at UCLA, Purdue down in the Crossroads Classic in Indianapolis, Illinois comes here in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So we've got our hands full across the board. But our young guys are growing, and they're getting there, and they're getting older, getting tougher. Rex Pfluger, Elijah Burns, T.J. Gibbs are kind of our old guard that have done a very good job leading this summer. And their leadership probably was strained, maybe, I shouldn't say strained, but more challenging than other senior or upperclassmen because we have so many new faces to break in, and they've done a really good job of that.
You lost both Colson and Gebbin from last year's team, and as you said, Gebbin had such a great year last year when after Colson went down and was such a big part of your success. What is the big man rotation looking like as you look forward to replacing those two guys?
Well, I think you have to start with Elijah Burns and Johnny Mooney. You know, both of these guys, one's in his 4th year in our program, Elijah Burns, Johnny Mooney in his 3rd year. And one of the things I've liked about our program is maybe guys haven't played much as freshmen and sophomores, and then as juniors we ask them to do things. I call it the junior year light bulb going on. Matt Farrell was an example of that. Bonzi was a little bit of a Zach August. You know, there's been many through the years. Then as a junior, we're asking them to do more, and they really deliver, and they should be able. They've been in our system for 2 years. They've played against older guys in practice for 2 years. So we really need those two guys. They're both 6'8". They're both about 250 pounds. They're 21 and both 21 years old. We need them to be men for us. And then you're looking at Nate Lashevsky, a freshman from Northfield Mount Herman, who had a very good summer. Jawan Durham, the long transfer from Connecticut, who's a bit of a shot blocker. We really have not had that. And then Chris Doherty is also a freshman. But Mooney, we need Mooney and Burns to play like they've been here a while, and I think they will.
Speaking of guys having big junior years, you know, T.J. Gibbs, I know a lot of Notre Dame fans are excited about what he could be this year. When you had the injuries last year, and particularly injuries to Farrell, he really stepped up and kind of, when Farrell and Bonzi were both out, carried the team for a few games offensively. How good could he be? Is he an all-league, all-ACC type of guy this year?
He is. I think he's one of the best guards in our league. I think he'll be maybe one of the best guards, talked about as one of the better guards in the country by the end of the season. And you're right. We threw him more responsibility as the injuries mounted, and he kept delivering. He's had a great summer. And it's funny, when guys get older, I asked him the other day, I said, why are you playing so well? Because it's just cool to watch. And darn if I want to overcoach you and screw you up right now. Why are you playing so well? He said, you know, Coach, as you get older, the game slows down for you. You see it differently. And that's just really good by him. He's making great decisions with the ball. He's shooting it. He's got himself in great shape. He was a little heavy when he was young. He's lean. But he'll be one of the, you know, best guards and best players in our league.
You talked about the two freshman big men. What about the 3 freshman guards? Can you kind of describe those 3 players for us and what you expect from them?
Well, we're excited. You know, Robbie Carmody from the Pittsburgh area, you know, he was Mr. Basketball in the state of Pennsylvania. He'll remind you a little bit of Connaughton. Athletic, slashing, wing, shoots it too, but good strength, already physically ready to compete in college for a young guy. Dane Goodwin from Columbus, who was Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio. He'll remind you a little bit of Astoria. Those are 2 pretty good guys to be reminded of, by the way, when I look at them. And I told him, I said, you know, when I compare you to those guys, it's a hell of a compliment. Please remember that. But shoots it, feel for the game. They both have a great feel for the game, which is something that's been our program. I'm excited about this afternoon because Prentice Hub will be released to play some 5-on-5 finally. He blew out his ACL and missed his senior year in high school, but is a very gifted lead guard, athletic, Grant-like, Jaron Grant-like. All 3 of those will be part of the rotation, as will Lashevsky. You know, those 4 freshmen will be part of our rotation.
You mentioned earlier that DJ Harvey was kind of an overlooked loss last year, he was really coming into his own as the ACC season was getting started, and he's had some, you know, knee issues. Are you expecting to have him back for the season this year?
I'm hopeful. I am. You know, the microfracture surgery procedure that he has is a longer recovering surgery. You got to be a little careful with it. We're doing more and more with him. He's been out a while. He's been great and very dedicated with his rehab. I do feel for him a little bit. He's been out of the battle for a while, but I think by mid-October we'll start pushing that knee and see how it reacts, and I'm hopeful we'll have him. Again, as I mentioned on the front end, you know, if you remember the NC State game, no Bonzi and no Matt Farrell for 35 minutes. I think he had like 15 and 7, and you could see where he was going to trend and score for us and be a starter for us. And then the next game we lose him to the bone bruise and the cartilage issue in the Louisville game. So that was, you know, tough. So anyways, I'm hopeful for him, and it's just a little bit slower recovery with that procedure.
You obviously had the foreign tour where I'm sure you learned a lot about this young team. But with practice getting ready to start in the beginning of October, what's the one thing you're most curious about that you still want to learn about your team before the season starts? What's the biggest unknown?
You know, we've been so good offensively here, and our assist to turnover is good, and our efficiency's been good. And I'm interested, again, I think we're going to be last year we were solid defensively to survive. We've improved on that end of the court the last couple years, and I'm pleased with that. And I think we'll be solid defensively again because a Pfluger and a Gibbs guard you, you know, and our old guys can sit down in a stance, and our young guys are. How will we score it? You know, who else is going to score? I know Gibbs is going to score. Who else is going to score? Is Leshevsky going to be our second leading scorer? What will Pfluger give us offensively? We know what Rex gives us all the way around in other areas. And where will our numbers come from, I think, is something that's intriguing for me as we go through the fall.
We're kind of in peak recruiting season here for you, and for those that follow recruiting, you've had, and you can't talk about recruits specifically, but you've had some really highly rated 5-star, high 4-star guys coming in for these past few football weekends, and a big one this weekend. And obviously the current freshman class that we've talked so much about is the highest rated recruiting class you've had here. Has the success that you had in the NCAA tournament over the last few years, has that kind of taken the recruiting to another level here?
I think it has. That, you know, the Elite Eight runs, the ACC championship. I think the style of play on the offensive end of the floor is something that's very attractive to young men. There's no question the ACC has helped us. This is our 6th year, I believe, in the ACC, and you know, it's really been, and I miss some of the old Big East. Don't get me wrong. I miss the playing Georgetown and DC and, you know, Nova and Philly and the Garden for the tournament. But our league now is the best league, the ACC. It's the deepest league. You have a shot at North Carolina and Duke every year, which is very attractive. So I think that has really helped us. My SID gave us an interesting stat. We've been in the ACC 5 seasons. Only 4 teams in the last 5 seasons have played in the ACC tournament championship game. And if you ask that in a trivia question, I think North Carolina, Duke, and Virginia would be rattled off quickly, and we're the 4th. We've played in 2, and Duke's played in 2, and Virginia and North Carolina's played in 3. So I love the fact after a tough first year, we've jumped into this league and have been, you know, pretty competitive. The tournament is in Charlotte this year. I think that'll be a great town. It'll be back on Tobacco Road. Of course, the last time the tournament was on Tobacco Road, we had a heck of a lot of fun on Tobacco Road. Overall, we've been pretty good on Tobacco Road. So, but the league, coupled with the success, you know, coupled with style of play, and then certainly when you sell this overall product, a young man that's going to compete in the classroom as much as the basketball court. We don't trick anybody into coming. You know, nobody on my roster, I said, fellas, school's hard. You know, if you want school to be easy, you got to get out of here. It's not going to work. School's really hard. You got to compete. And I've loved it. I've got 6 young men in the Mendoza Business School, which is really a challenge. And our team GPA was close to a 3.0 last year. Those are all things that are, you know, important to our guys and important to how we do things. So I just think overall we have a good buzz about us as a program. Thus, some 5-star guys showing up the last couple weeks.
You're getting ready to move into a new building this fall, Rolf's Athletics Hall, the new basketball practice facility here on campus that's getting close to finishing up. How much of a game changer is that going to be for your program?
We're excited about it, and we should be on the courts for practice October 1st. They have fast-tracked this facility since January 1. Our department's done a great job with it. I know Muffin and I are both excited about getting in there. The courts are actually down and painted, so we could be on there October 1st. And everybody, the first reaction is recruiting. And yes, it will help in recruiting, but the kind of kids we get, 4 and sometimes 5-year guys that have been with us, the Bonzi Colsons, the Matt Farrells, the Pat Connaughtons, Jaron Grants, you can go Chris Quinn, you can go guys that are with us that get better and work on their game. It's even a better laboratory for these 4-year guys to get better in. So that may be what I'm most excited about. Certainly, it's cool in recruiting, no question, and it shows a commitment. But how we built the program with guys getting better, it's a better laboratory, more efficient laboratory, and I can't wait to get in there in October.
We're going to take questions from the audience in a second here, but first I wanted to talk about one of your big priorities off the court. This summer you had your annual Coaches versus Cancer golf tournament. Since coming to Notre Dame, you've raised $3.4 million for cancer and the fight against cancer.
Thank you.
Why is that such a big priority for you?
Well, my dad was a malignant melanoma survivor back in the 90s, and then when I took the University of Delaware job, I got involved with the charity back then, and then when we came out here, we started it in my second year. Mike Sullivan, who's here with us, is a big force behind it. But it's been amazing to watch this community embrace it. The other thing that's really exciting about it is when we started the charity, there was no Harper Cancer Center. And the neat thing about Coaches versus Cancer, 80% of the funds stay locally. And we're involved with a number of grants over there to try and study to beat this darn thing, right? That's our goal, is to beat this darn thing. And you know what's so great is, I've been in this town now. This is my 19th year. I'll be out to lunch or dinner or walking around, and certainly people come up and go, hey, what do you think about your point guard? What do you think about the ACC? I get as many comments on, hey, Coach, it's really cool you do Coaches versus Cancer because I'm a survivor, or my aunt, or my uncle, my brother. And so it's just amazing. And now, as the statistics say, we're kind of doing some damage on this disease. So now's the time to pour even more into it. So early August every year is when we have a weekend of events, and it's a sold-out golf tournament, a number of different things. But, again, it's a lot of money we've raised, and, again, 80% of it has stayed here, which is really cool.
That's wonderful. We're going to take some questions from the audience now. We've got folks coming around with microphones. Raise your hand if you have a question for Coach Brey. Got one up front right here.
Coach, what percentage of your athletes graduate?
Well, it's funny. I don't even talk graduation rate with recruits. We just do that. We don't need to fly that flag. Like, we do that here. That's just done. And we have had every young man dating back to Digger's tenure that have used his eligibility here, finished his eligibility. Every young man has graduated. I don't even know what that number is, but it's off the charts, So one of my favorite pictures, and we put it out on social media, my favorite picture from last season was myself and my 5 seniors in front of three-point attempt Jesus in the background. It's funny how I subtly changed that, huh? That's my favorite picture. And it's amazing the comments in recruiting. That picture is really powerful. So that's what we do here. And we're really proud of it. And we've got, now this year, I've got Rex Pfluger as my lone senior. I went from 5 seniors to 1 senior.
Who else has a question for Coach Brey?
Hey, Coach. What do you think about the new NCAA rules, and how does that impact your recruiting and your competitive advantage with 4- and 5-year guys?
Well, the neat thing about, as you followed, college basketball's taken a little bit of a hit. There's no question about it. And I think coaches, have been painted maybe more so last year with a broad brush of we don't do business the right way. As some of you may know, Father John, our president, was on Condoleezza Rice's commission to give recommendations, which they did in early August. And there's some real major changes. I have been on our Coaches Association board for 10 years. Actually, I'm the incoming president, and the timing is never could be crazier because we have so many changes with the recruiting calendar and different things that I think over time are going to help us. We don't have all the answers, and it can't be solved overnight. We had that FBI investigation explode last October. I think there's probably more shoes to drop in that thing. But, that's the one thing that I've really been proud of is we've run our program a certain way for a long time, and we always will. And quite frankly, we've had to compete against some of the programs that have cut corners. And there's nothing like beating those suckers, right? I mean, there's nothing like beating them. I am hopeful, and I give Father John a lot of credit because he spent a lot of time on this with Condoleezza Rice. I am hopeful over time we've made some initial changes that 3-4 years from now with this recruiting rules, recruiting calendar, are going to change some things and clean some things up, which need to be.
I think we got time for one more question over here.
Coach, how you feel about the one and done situation? That's going to be a rule that's going to, I had to go by the roadside?
Yeah, the one and done situation probably will go in 2022. It won't be soon. For us, I don't have much of opinion because we've not dealt in that world much. People ask me all the time, do you never say never with a one and done. You investigate everybody and the way, but for the most part, we're going to get 4 and 5 year guys. Now, we've had guys leave after 3, Troy Murphy, who came back and finished his degree, Demetrius Jackson, who is already starting to think about finishing his degree. But for us, it's not been a factor. I do think it'll go away in 20, so those phenoms can go, let them go. And but we'll never get the baseball rule. Everybody, the baseball rule. If they come, they can stay 3. That's just not going to happen, And kids are still going to be able to, go after a year, even if they come to college. But if you do away with the one and done, probably a lot of that population, it's not a lot of kids, well, they'll be going out of high school, like Garnett and like Kobe Bryant and like LeBron. For us, we just are not in that world much. Every now and then there's one that could be a fit that may not be a 4-year guy, and you always have an open mind, but for the most part, we've been 4-year guys.
Unfortunately, Coach, as he said, he's got practice this afternoon.
Yeah,
he's got a meeting even before that, so he can't hang around. He's got to run. But before we let him go, I'm going to bring up the executive director of the Notre Dame Alumni Association, Dolly Duffy.
Coach, thanks.
Thank
you.
You
are always quick to say yes. Every year you draw a fabulous crowd.
Good crowd,
And I've had the great privilege of traveling with the men's team. And if you think he's chill up here, you should see him on the road. He's fabulous.
Well, you've been with us for wins.
Yeah. I remind him that they're undefeated on the road when I'm traveling with him. So last year, right before Maui, I said, "Do you need any help?"
Yeah.
So I started a Twitter account a couple weeks ago. And my first picture was Garth Brooks because I couldn't find you.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So
I can't believe
I've been
that.
waiting 2 weeks. Can I have a picture?
Let's get a picture.
All right.
Let's get a picture. You're tweeting now, huh?
tweeting.
You're tweeting. I love it. Let's get one. With the crowd in the background, right? With the crowd in the background.
We're going all out. 1, 2, 3.
I love it. You're tweeting. I love it.
All right, everybody, give
Thanks,
it up
guys.
for the great Mike Brey.